Hey everyone, I'm Matt with Ozark Overland Adventures, and in this video we're going to talk about how to lift your Jeep on a budget, how to do it for the least amount of money. I'm not sure how we're going to actually define that. The point of this video is to teach you the key things that if you're going to lift your vehicle, and I'm talking specifically about Jeeps and really solid axle vehicles, but these principles can be applied to even IFS rigs, like a 4Runner or a Tacoma, that sort of thing. But I own Jeeps, so this is what I know. But I want to teach you the key things. If you are looking for a lift for your vehicle, specifically a solid axle vehicle, these are the key things that in your selection of a lift kit, these are the things that you need to be looking for. And this is true whether you're looking for just a little 2-inch lift or a 6-inch lift, everything in between. These are the things that you need to be looking out for. Now, before I begin, let me tell you a little story. Now, this story is about a guy named Matt who got his very first Jeep. It was a 2008 Jeep Wrangler JKU Sahara. Bought it used. I had kids, always wanted Jeeps, always loved Jeeps, always wanted to have one. Kids, the older TJs, the 2-doors, not really a realistic family car. But when Jeep released the 4-door, then the dream was back on. And so it was time to replace my sensible 4-door family car and got a Jeep. Got a 4-door Wrangler, 2008 Sahara. And man, absolutely loved that thing. Did take it off-road, fell in love with off-roading, fell in love with exploring. Got into a situation where I got high-centered in New Mexico. Had no recovery gear, bone stock. Took some creative thinking to get my Jeep unstuck from that situation. When I got home, I knew I needed a lift, I needed bigger tires, and I needed recovery gear, specifically a winch. So at that point, I hadn't even owned my Jeep a year. Didn't know anything about suspension. Didn't know anything about geometry or any of that stuff. And so I was on a budget. Didn't have a lot of money to spend on a lift. Was going to do it myself. First time I'd ever installed a lift on my own, but I can read instructions and I got tools, so that's good to go. And I found a lift. I knew that I wanted better off-road performance. So I didn't just want a spacer lift or a puck lift that puts a 2.5 inch spacer under your springs and typically shock extensions. I knew I didn't want that. I wanted real off-road performance. So I knew I wanted springs and shocks. Taller springs, longer shocks. I knew that's what I needed. So I found a lift kit that was within my budget. I want to say $500, $600, something like that. And it came with springs, it came with shocks, it came with a rear track bar relocation bracket, and it came with the front track bar, I think. So that was pretty much it. So I was excited. I installed that lift on my Jeep. It looked amazing. 2.5 inch lift, 35 inch tires, and I thought that was incredible. Well, it didn't take long before I wasn't happy with how it drove. I'd be driving down the road. If I hit any type of bump, especially like the bridge, the bridge joints where it goes from bridge to road, those bumps, any type of bump like that, it would want to dart. It'd want to take off one direction or another. If I hit any type of pavement with some irregularities in it, it'd want to wander and to just kind of be all over the place. And I'd have to hang on with both hands to fight this thing to go straight. Well, I started doing some research, and I realized that just springs and shocks caused the geometry of the suspension. I'm learning all this online. I'm figuring all this stuff out by on my own. And that the key to fixing that issue is correcting your caster. And the caster is kind of the angle of your axle. And so I started researching, okay, how do I fix that? And the answer was control arms. So I then went in and I found a set of control arms. I think they were rock crawler control arms, and just got the front set. I saved up my money and just got the front set of control arms and installed those. Took it to have it aligned. Oh my gosh, it completely changed how my Jeep drove. It now would track straight. If I hit a bump, it wouldn't dart all over the road. It wouldn't wander. And it was in this process, I finally saved up enough money to replace all 4 of the rear control arms. And it was a process. And in that process, and now owning the Jeeps that we've had, I mean, we've got 3 now between me and my wife. 1, 2, 3, 4, now 7 Jeeps that we've owned. And in the process of building each of those, I've learned a few things on how to properly set up a suspension and the key things to look out for if you're looking for a lift kit for your Jeep. Now, the issue is that there are a ton of lift kits out there from a ton of different manufacturers. It's not like there's a half dozen to choose from, and they're different budgets, and you can kind of pick and choose from there. No, there's a ton of lift kits, and a lot of them will give you the same experience that I had and really cause your Jeep to drive worse than it did with it with stock. Now, I'm not going to get into really any specific brands. I just want to talk about principles, and after we discuss this, we are going to go inside of the computer, and we're going to take a look. We're going to go through a couple websites and see which lift kits check off these boxes, and then kind of see, okay, what's the least amount of money that I can spend to properly lift my vehicle, and that's kind of the ballpark. Now, springs and shocks. That's obviously what is the key to a lift, is taller springs, longer shocks. Man, those are subjective. They really are. What I feel is comfortable and how I like my Jeep to ride, whether stiff or firm, that's what I like. So I'm not going to tell you need these springs and these shocks to give you the same ride that I do, because we're all different. So obviously springs and shocks, but the thing you need to look out for is, and this you typically is going to require a phone call to the manufacturer, is weight rating. Springs particularly are rated to carry a certain amount of weight. My Gladiator is running a Clayton 3.5-inch premium lift, and I started with their standard springs. After adding more weight and building out the back and stuff, I noted that those springs weren't supporting the weight, so I switched to Clayton's HD springs in the rear. Lots of companies make different spring rates depending on how you're building out your Jeep, especially in something like a Gladiator that by default is super lightweight in the back because it's an empty truck bed. But as you build it out, add racks, tents, gear, fridges, all that sort of stuff, it's a lot more weight than what springs designed for an empty bed are going to, how they're going to perform and what the weight that they're rated for. So if you are adding stuff to the back of your vehicle, it applies to a Wrangler or whatever, and you notice the back springs are now sagging, then you need springs at the same lift height that are rated for the heavier weight. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Now, there are some companies, I did start out with a different lift on my Gladiator, started to sag on it, and their solution was, oh, we'll just put our 4-inch springs back there. I don't think that's the right solution, because even those 4-inch springs aren't rated for the weight, and they would also sag and be a little more bouncy. So if a company says, oh yeah, we'll just send you longer springs, I don't think that's a good idea. Find some that are actually rated for that lift height and that weight. Now the problem with going with a cheap lift kit is that, not like a really cheap lift kit, is that they're not going to have the necessary components to properly adjust your geometry. And the key things that cause your Jeep to drive straight, not wander, all over the road, dart when you hit bumps and stuff, are these things right here. The control arms. There are 4 in the front, 4 in the back. The control arms, like I said, they adjust the angle of your axle and it's math and geometry stuff. I don't know all the details. I know generally how it works though. But the control arms is what controls that. And there's two ways to go about that. Some lift kits will have a fixed, longer control arm. Mopar kits have that fixed control arm that sets it back to the factory geometry. My personal preference are adjustable control arms, which is what I have here from Clayton. All four control arms can be adjusted, make them longer, make them shorter, push your axle forward, pull it back, rotate it, all that sort of stuff with adjustable control arms. And what that allows you to do is dial in, maybe you've got really bigger tires and a taller lift. You need more caster than factory. I think factory is like 4.5 degrees or something like that. Mine's currently set up at close to 6.5 degrees caster, and it drives amazing. So that is my issue with fixed control arms. And I mean, they're fine. They will definitely make it better. But the key thing to look for is adjustable control arms. And really all you need to adjust your caster is one or the other, either a set of lowers or a set of uppers. You don't have to have both. You can dial it in better, but you can get by with one or the other. Now, the other thing you need when lifting your vehicle is some way to adjust your track bar. Every solid axle vehicle has a track bar, and that is, so here's the frame of your vehicle, and here's the track bar bracket, here's your axle. There is a bar that connects these two. What this does is it prevents your axle from shifting right and left, and it keeps it firmly planted in the center of your vehicle. Now, what happens is as you lift your vehicle up, your track bar, this goes up, so that means this is a fixed length, so that means your axles are actually going to shift that way, and which now means your axles are not going to be centered. And so what that's going to look like is you've got your axles, and you've got your track bar, and now your main frame is over here. That's exaggerated, but now your axles are not centered with the vehicle, and that's bad. So make sure that a lift kit comes with an adjustable track bar, specifically for the front. The rear, a lot of companies will just do a relocation bracket, which is fine. I prefer an actual adjustable track bar in the rear too, so you can dial in and center the axle on the rear as well. But most track bar relocation brackets will do that. So track bar is another key component. Now, a couple other things to consider. If you were lifting your vehicle, I'm going to say more than 2.5 inches, especially when you get up into that 3-inch plus range, you need to seriously be looking at a new front drive shaft, because as you lift it, that drive shaft has to extend, and the angle of the drive shaft gets too much for the factory drive shaft, especially in Jeeps, to handle. And what happens is you will tear the boot in the joint that connects to the transfer case. All the grease will eventually spin out of that. It will get very dry. You'll start hearing rattling sounds, clanking sounds, and eventually, like happened to me one time, your drive shaft will break and fall out. So anything over 2.5 inches, it's not an immediate thing, but it's something that's going to happen eventually, especially if you wheel it. I've got an aftermarket drive shaft in Sully. Kara's Wrangler only has a 2.5-inch lift. Her factory drive shaft's doing great. Kara's Gladiator has a 3.5-inch lift. It's got 20-something thousand miles on it. She needs a new drive shaft. That boot is torn. It's not failing yet, but I suspect it's going to. So that's the next thing on the list for her Gladiator is a new drive shaft. Now let's make a list. So we know we're going to say springs and shocks. But honestly, if you just want to go cheap and do a spacer lift, you're not really concerned about off-roading, then you could do pucks and shock extension. So this is the lift. Now we got to correct for the geometry, which can be done with control arms. Now there are some companies that do make geometry correction brackets. That's better than nothing. So we'll say geo brackets. So control arms or geo brackets. My issue with the geometry correction brackets is, one, they drop the mounting point for the lower control arms below the frame, and if you're going to be off-roading, that's very likely to get hung up on rocks, bashed on rocks, those sort of things. I'm not a big fan of that. The other thing is, it, like fixed longer control arms like the Mopar kits give you, they don't, if the kit only comes with geometry correction brackets, then it's at the fixed caster that they decided to set, and it may not be the ideal caster of what you actually need. So it doesn't allow any adjustability. It is fixed, but it's better than nothing. The other way to correct geometry is with what are they called? Caster washers. I don't like those. If you see a kit that comes with caster washers, I think that's what they're called. I can't remember. I've never used them. But don't get that. That goes back to like TJ's. You know, the older Jeeps used to get away with those, but I mean, really, since the JKs, it's kind of gone away. You have to wallow out your control arm mount, and the washer allows the where the mount inside the control arm inside the bracket, where it mounts, it kind of can move it back and forth. Not a good solution. Not a good solution at all. So not going to count those. These two are okay, control arms and geometry correction brackets. Now, we got to deal with track bars. We got to have a way to center the axle. So it can be adjustable for the front or relocation rear. So if you got adjustable front track bar, relocation bracket in the rear, you're good to go. So that's another thing. If you're getting up into the 3.5 inch, especially higher than that, then seriously need to consider it needs to come with longer brake lines. The JLs and JTs come with longer brake lines than the JKs used to. So, I mean, I've got a 3.5 inch lift on Sully. I'm still running the factory brake lines. My rear, when it flexes out, is really tight. But I mean, I wheel the crap out of this thing. Haven't messed up a brake line yet. I do keep the brake lines that came with my kit. I do keep them in my toolkit just in case that happens. So I am prepared if I do ever rip a brake line. And man, is there anything else? Oh, you can get by without them, but if it's a 2.5 inch lift or more, it needs to come with some form of bump stops. That way it doesn't allow you to just really cram your tire up into the fender, super compressing your springs, that sort of thing. So most of them are going to come with bump stops, but make sure yours do. And I think that's it. So there you go. That's what you need if you're going to properly lift your Jeep and you want it to drive well. Spring shocks, pucks or shock extensions, whatever, control arms or geometry correction brackets, track bar, brake lines, bump stops. Now, let's go inside and let's see what lift options we can find. All right, let's take a look here. So what I've got is I just pulled up Northridge 4x4's website. I'm not endorsing them. I order a lot of my stuff from Northridge. You could do Quadratech or Extreme Terrain, whatever, there's a bunch of them. But I know Northridge has a big selection of lifts from a bunch of different brands. And let's just scroll through them. What I've got selected is, I've got it for Gladiator, just because that's what I have. And 3 to 3.5 inch lift kits. Same thing's gonna apply to any lift kit. But this is what I've selected because this is what I've currently got on my Jeep. And this, I've got it sorted by price lowest. So let's see what we get here. I see all the time people asking, what's the cheapest lift I can get for the money? Or what's the best lift for the money? How cheap can I get by with? So let's just go through these. Zone. So Zone apparently comes in here at the cheapest. 3-inch lift, springs, no shocks. I did forget to mention longer sway bar links. You will need longer sway bar links for your Jeep. But looks like they go with maybe shock extensions on that. 0 way to adjust your caster or center axle. So nope, no go on that one. Here's a spacer lift from TerraFlex, 3.5 inches. I think really 3.5 inches is ridiculous for a spacer lift. 2 inches, 2.5 inches is the max I would go personally. But so spacer lift from TerraFlex. Yeah, that's a hard pass. No way to correct your geometry. And at 3.5 inches of lift and no geometry correction, that sucker's gonna be flying all over the road. Rough Country, popular budget brand. I'll leave it at that. Here's a Rough Country. It does 3.5-inch spacers. It does include shocks. It does include an adjustable front track bar. So yay for that. Does include bump stop extensions and sway bar link extensions. So, I mean, checking off some boxes there. But most importantly, there is no way to center the rear axle. And there's most importantly, no way to correct geometry. So hard pass there on the Rough Country. Another Zone. Now we've got springs. They include shocks. Same lift as up here, but with shocks. Guarantee you those are some garbage shocks. Nope, hard pass. Another Rough Country lift. Springs. We got springs on this one. No shocks. We're using shock extensions here. Looks like they do include some geometry correction brackets. So that's something. So let's see. We've got springs, shock extensions, no brake lines, no rear track bar relocation bracket on this kit. So no. Now you can piece this together if you want to. You could find another track bar relocation bracket or just another rear track bar and do that if you want to. I prefer, for the most part, keeping my lifts all together because I know they were designed together. So there's that. Let's see, another TerraFlex. This one includes springs, no shocks, so that's going to be a pass. Another 3.5-inch Rough Country. Same lift as up here, but well, a little bit different. Springs, shocks. Oddly, they don't include the geometry correction brackets on this one that includes the shocks. That's dumb. So hard pass on that one. I mean, why would they include geometry correction brackets here, but not include them here? That's stupid. FabTech spring is no. Another Zone, 3-inch lift, spring, shocks. Nope. No geometry correction. No axle centering. That's crazy. BDS. All right, with BDS, what you got? Track bar, spring, shocks, no geometry correction, hard pass. You can see, I mean, we've quickly gotten, we're now exceeding $1,000. So if you want to lift your vehicle for sub $1,000, you're going to be making some real serious compromises that are just going to make your vehicle drive worse. So, I mean, when you start talking about, budget, below $1,000 is not attainable to actually make it drive well. Here's another Rough Country. I don't know what the difference. Oh, nicer shocks. Still no geometry correction. Still no centering of the rear axle. Hard pass. All right, Rancho. This is interesting. No shocks with their kit. They do have a track bar. Springs. They do have front control arms. I'm guessing these are bump stops for the rear, but no rear axle centering, no relocation bracket here for the rear track bar. So far, this is the best one, but again, no shocks. You'd have to add shocks, so that's going to take $1,000. Inexpensive good shocks are going to run you $100 a piece. There's $400, so you're looking at $1,500 here and still can't center your rear axle. And with 3 inches, that rear axle is going to be noticeably off center. BDS, nicer shocks. Nope. BDS again, but still no. JKS has usually got decent stuff. No rear axle centering. No. Okay. Cam washers, not caster washers. Cam washers. That's what I meant to say earlier. Now I do know, because I've checked this one out. This JKS lift does include caster washers, so you can cam bolts or cam washers, so you can do some adjustments to your caster, but I don't think that's a good solution. So hard pass there on JKS. Dynatrac, great products. I mean, great name. Bare bones kit for $1,300. No. Rock Crawler. Rock Crawler is actually the brand that I started with on my Gladiator. If you are building a rock crawler or keeping your vehicle light, Rock Crawler's best. There's some high. That is a good brand. We've had multiple rock crawler lifts in the past, and they are solid. Problem is, they're not really designed for overlanding and weighing down the back of your vehicle, so that's where the rock crawler springs no good. But if you're keeping your rig light and you're building, like a rock crawler, they're fantastic. Now, this is good because you pick your own shocks. They don't come with shocks, but you get here. This is fixed lower control arms on the rock crawler, so not adjustable, but they're fixed. But I mean, that's a rear track bar relocation bracket, front track bar. Okay, I mean, add some shocks to that and you'd be okay. Dynatrac, now Dynatrac's getting into it. We got shocks, we got springs, we got sway bar links, we've got lower control arms here, but no track bars. That's weird. More expensive with less. I don't understand that one. Another rock crawler. I don't know what the difference is. Mid-arm, this is the no limits. Okay, still need shocks. BDS, come on, we're at $1,700 here. Let's see, springs, shocks. No. All right, let's go to page 2. $1,700. JKS. Oh, come on, JKS for $1,800, and you're still giving me cam washers. No. Clayton. Ride Right. Okay, all right. Obviously, I'm a fan of Clayton. This Ride Right kit is awesome. It includes springs. It includes upper control arms. It includes front and rear adjustable track bars. It includes brake lines. What it doesn't have is shocks. So add a $400 set of shocks to this. You're looking at $2,224 for a solid kit here. AEV. Now, AEV is one of the companies that really likes the geometry correction brackets. And if I was going to run a geometry correction bracket on my lower control arms, AEV is what I would go with. They're 3-inch dual sport, springs, shocks, geometry correction brackets, rear bracket, brake lines. Okay. But, I mean, you're at $1,900 here. So, all right, JKS. We're going to skip that one. It's bare bones. We're going to skip that one. It's bare bones. JKS. We've got geometry correction brackets here. No cam bolts or cam washers. I don't see a way to adjust the rear track bar, though. That's a bummer. Dynatrac. Again, no track bars. Oh, here we go. This Dynatrac. This has everything you need. Front and rear track bars, springs, sway bars, bump stops, lower control arms, for $2,082. Okay. All right, now we're getting up into higher end stuff. I mean, if you're spending $2,500 for a lift kit, it's most likely going to come with everything you need. So let's look at some options here. Let's go to Rough Country's website, and let's see, where did I go here? Here's a frustration with Rough Country. because you can piece their stuff together. So I've got Gladiator selected here, and here's their 3.5-inch lift kit for the Gladiator. Track bar, no way to adjust caster. And the crazy thing is, they don't even make a way to adjust caster. So let's go to suspension parts, control arms. For the Gladiator, they have a control arm relocation kit. And I would not buy this for anything. $100, thin plates of steel. No way am I gonna hit that on a rock. But there's no control arms here. But I know they have control arms for the Wrangler, and the front end of a Gladiator is the exact same as the front end of a Wrangler. So let's watch this. Wrangler, here we go. Boom, control arms. So I could add $260 for control arms here and buy the Wrangler ones, but they don't tell you. Their website says that doesn't fit my Gladiator. That's dumb. Let's go back to my Gladiator. And then I could go over here and go suspension, track bars. Where's track bars? Track bars. So track bars, another 150, another 130 for front and rear track bars. I mean, it starts to add up. And I can tell you that, here's one thing. As you get into the higher quality suspension companies, the better things you're going to be getting are things like the bushings. I know from experience that Rough Country's bushings are garbage because I've had them before. I've had that exact track bar before. Bushings didn't last 6 months. Horrible. As you get into the higher end brands, the rock crawlers, the Claytons, the metal cloaks, you get much better bushings, and they're going to last a lot longer. So you're paying for the longevity too. Better quality shocks too. So there's that. So yeah, I mean, I could go on Rough Country's website and kind of piece it together if I wanted to. Another brand, Rusty's. Rusty's is good stuff. I found this one on Rusty's website. Rusty's is a company in Louisiana. No, or Mississippi. Louisiana or Mississippi. I never can remember which one, but it's one of them. So U.S. company, Rusty's is some good quality stuff. This kit I like. It comes with springs, monotube shocks, brake line relocation brackets, sway bar links, rear track bar, front track bar with the track bar reinforcement brace. That's nice. For $16.22. I mean, that's a good deal. That's a good kit. That has what you need to have a really good running Jeep. Beefy lower control arms, adjustable. Yeah, I like that. I want to go to Clayton's website. They've got some great options. If you just want to do like a little leveling kit, look, even their leveling kits come with upper front control arms. That's awesome. Because Clayton realizes that even just a 1.5-inch leveling kit is going to throw your geometry off, and you're going to want to fix that. So that's awesome. On our two Gladiators, one's running Clayton, one's running Metal Cloak. Both are fantastic. Cannot recommend either one of them enough. But it's their ride right kits. Where's our 3.5-inch ride right kit? Bingo, right here. So yeah, $1,600. Throw in a set of Bilstein 5100 shocks for $100 a piece, $400 total. You're at $2,015 for a really solid kit that will allow you to grow. As budget allows, throw in the extra control arms. To add those things if you really want the most flex out of your vehicle. You want to be able to dial in the pinion angle on the rear, that sort of stuff. Yeah, do that. And then you've got their higher end kits. So this is what I have on my Gladiator, the premium lift kit. So it's fantastic. And then Metal Cloak. Metal Cloak does the same thing. Here's Metal Cloaks that they do kind of a select what you want. So shocks, I did no added shocks. We can get our own. Let's see. Fox shocks, Rock Sport Reds. Those are good. Rock Sport Reds are good. But you get the basic stuff. You get shocks, springs, brake lines, bump stops, front and rear track bars, front upper control arms here for $2,500 from Metal Cloak. $2,000 is about the minimum for a 3.5-inch kit. Like, I think that's where the budget begins for lifting your Jeep and it driving well. So yeah, so there you go. I think $2,000 is a realistic starting point for lifting your Jeep, being able to dial in the geometry, center your axles, have everything properly set up, and then you can add to it from there. I hope this was helpful. Not too bashy on brands, not too pro certain brands, but just the general ideas of these are the things you need to look for when you are outfitting your Jeep, lifting your Jeep, really any solid axle vehicle. But really these principles apply to IFX rigs. Geometry is the key in lifting your vehicle. So even if you've got a 4Runner and you want to lift it, look for ones that are going to set up the geometry properly. If you've got any questions, be sure and put them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. If you like the video, please like it. Subscribe if you're not. And if you like the content that we're doing and you want to consider supporting the channel, gain access to special events, special content, all of our GPS data from our trips, check out the Patreon link in the description. And for all of our merchandise, go to shopoverlandapparel.com. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye. Oh, I know this is going to end up in the comments, but yeah, my daughters gave me that for Christmas. So I know someone's going to mention that in the comments because it's funny. But my daughters gave me that. Bye.